गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी विद्यादानं करिष्यामि मे सदा। ओम श्री सद्गुरुदेवाय नमः। हरि ओम। I will share my screen. Any questions anybody has for the last session?
No, Dhavalji. No, uh, actually, I thought of applying it somewhere, but don't know where to apply. If you can provide some exercises, it would be even more
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. I was thinking about the same. So
Uh,
probably by end of today's session, we will also have some exercise question.
yeah, great.
Uh, um, what I will do is create some sort of a page which you will have to implement in HTML. Now, let us get back to where we were. So we went over the semantic HTML portion and the importance selecting proper tags has on what happens with the content, especially with respect to accessibility. So the best way to think about the output of what we are serving is to think about how people will access this content with non-conventional means like screen reader. If we can think about that, it will force us to think about structuring the content properly and making things more meaningful. For example, a site can be very much meaningful visually. When you take a look at it, it is laid out properly in terms of visual hierarchy. But sometimes what happens is the site will not make as much sense if it is read out. If the title is not given properly, even the title does not have enough information, then the person who is going to access the site does not know what this page is all about. Okay, this is very important. We think that giving a title and making it bold and making it look like it is the title of the page is in itself sufficient, but that is usually not the case. A person if is accessing the page through a screen reader would want to understand what is this page all about, and what will happen is the program will read out some title, and based on that he will try to make a sense of the page, what it is all about, and whether he actually wants to go through the page or not. Okay, what we expect people to do is give all the information and have them go through the page visually and skim over the page visually and see if they want to interact with a certain section or not. Okay, and in doing that, what we typically comfortably do is put in a lot of content on the page. Okay, thinking that this person can easily access all the sections of the page and let them decide what to do. But if you think about people who cannot see properly or who cannot easily go through different sections of the pages, or if they see, they are able to see only a certain area of the page at a time, then we can understand that providing a proper structure, meaningful content is very, very important, because they might want to make out of the page from very small context itself. And, in that case, following this semantic that, let there be a proper page title, let each sections have proper subtitles, let the organization of the content in a page be proper and, easy to understand, all those things suddenly start making a lot of sense. Clear? Any questions there?
Very clear.
No, Dhavalji.
Okay, because, for example, this site. Okay, now this site may have a lot of content. And if it is not clear from the title itself what this page does, then the user will have to go through this page before deciding what to do with this page. Okay, so we have to think about how people access our software and content, and then, think about rendering it correctly. Okay, and as we will start doing these exercises, you will realize that very less part is actually about coding. Okay, a lot of the portion is actually about thinking how users are accessing our software, what is it that will make actual sense to them, and what they can do and what they cannot do. Okay, so now that is one, ensuring that the content is structured and meaningful, and why that is so important. Now let us go to another area of HTML, where we are providing content which is not just text. Okay, so HTML can also have content which is rich content like images, audio, and video. Okay, but now, if that is the case, think how the people who cannot see will access this page. Okay, we might think about creating a page with a lot of bells and whistles, lot of good icons, lot of visual visually rich interface. But we might realize that none of that is actually important for accessibility. Sometimes, in fact, relying too much on that will come in the way of accessibility, because we are thinking that this is a visual button and it looks good and it has some call to action which is in a form of an icon, and user can click on that. But at the same time, if a person cannot see, then the icon will not make any sense to them, button will not make any sense to them. Clear? So what we need to do here is to ensure that the content which is non-textual content or visually rich content is also accessible to the users. Okay, for example, this icon, if I look at this icon, are you seeing a tag called ARIA label?
Yes, Dhavalji.
Yeah. So this provides the information to the browser that this is actually a share icon. This is actually an icon which is about sharing. Okay. In the same way, if there is a image somewhere, which is an image there for visual decoration. Okay. Then in that case, users will not be able to understand what that image is about. So the image has to have an alternative text. Okay, let me go to such an image and show you. So this is not a right one for that example. I will probably write that code myself. that will be easier. So let us say we are providing an image, and src is the URL to the image. Okay, now if we use this tag, it will display an image in the browser. But when this user goes to this image by screen reader, they will not know what is the content of the image. So if this image is that of a content, it is related to some content. Let's say this product image is actually something which is content of this page. It's not a design element of this page. Okay, then if this country flag actually is also related to the content of the page, it's not just there for design. So if the image is related to that kind of a thing, then I should be putting an alternative text here, which says flag of USA. Flag of India. Okay, so that way the content which is non-textual will also make sense to the users. Now, for example, this star rating widget that you see on the page, okay, that allows you to interact with the stars in a visual way. When you have to rate a product, what you will have to do? Take your mouse there, hover over the stars and select a star, and then it will be rated. Is that how you rate the product?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So how can one do that when they are not able to see the content of the page?
Audio has to be enabled or
Yeah. So nowadays there is a technique called ARIA, which is accessibility for rich internet applications. But if we were to just think about, understanding that from an HTML perspective, semantic HTML perspective, the way I would want to represent this star is actually input type equal to radio option. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then this will represent 5 radio buttons, and user can select one of them. And that can be easily accessible to the users who are browsing it through screen reader. What will the screen reader read out to them? It will say, select your rating. Option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, option 5. See how that is easily represented using a proper tag. Any questions so far?
No, Dhavalji, it's clear.
Okay, so all the images here you see. See, now this image is actually just some sort of visual image, right? But see what they have given as an alt tag here. Fields, horse, wooden sign which has berry patch font. Fields, animal, girls using special computer. Dirt road, tiny housing, boys using special computer. Clear? Now somebody might be actually accessing this page using a braille reader. You know what is a braille reader?
Yes, it is used for blind people.
Those who are blind, and sometimes they also might be having hearing problems.
Hearing.
Okay, because that time they cannot even use a screen reader. Okay, audio is also not an option for them. So what will happen? They will have to read this screen through a braille reader. Okay, so all this information, if it is there as a proper text, then various, mediums of communication can easily read out to them in the way that is accessible for them. Clear? So if you see here, person typing with one hand, other arm is in a sling. Okay. One more important aspect of things here is the navigation of a page. Okay, so for example, we just thought about how to structure the content of the page so that it is easy to understand. And for that matter, we also understood that, we should not put too many things on a page and things like that. At the same time, even after doing that, we need to ensure that the page is accessible through means which are not just mouse or touch. Okay. So for example, somebody who cannot easily use a mouse or touch the screen, okay, and they can just use a keyboard based on what the screen is reading out to them. What will happen? I will use tab keys to go through the interface. Okay. Now see, this is where I typed my address. Okay. This is where I type my address and it opens the page. Now what happens? I go through the page one by one. It takes me to the heading of the page, initial navigation of the page, help and my profile, and home icon of the page. Now it is taking me to the secondary navigation of the page and allows me to go through that navigation. Then tertiary navigation, tertiary navigation is, I'm in the course section. So then the links within the course section. Then it allows me to navigate within the selected course and lesson and different sections of the course. Okay. And finally, it takes me through the different areas of the lesson. And finally, previous and next. So see how it is properly also laid out in terms of accessing the page. And see, they have also thought about the user in a sense that, they will be going through this page all the time. So every time they will come to this page, they will not want to go through so many elements in order to interact with the course. Okay, when I click on next or I click on previous, if it reloads the page, again, I don't want to go through all the sections of the page by keyboard. It's very cumbersome. So what they have done actually, there is a link here on the top of the page, which is not visible. It is only visible if I press tab and I arrive to that link. And if I click on that, I am directly taken to the content of the page. I am not forced to go through the other sections of the page. And if I start pressing tab now, yeah, that is also a bug on their end. But basically, it should allow me to focus on the content of the page. Okay, this is done through something called tab index. So if there is any button or link on the page which performs some action, then I can also have a tab index attached to it. So if there is a link is referred by a tag, home, course. So I can specify here tab index equal to 0. Tab index equal to 1. And here it will matter a lot if I use a tag called main and put my main content of the page. Because when I want to put a link like a tab index equal to 0, skip to main content. And what I want to do is, if I click on this link, it should directly go to the main section of the page. Is this clear?
Yes, Dhavalji.
Yes, Dhavalji.
So any questions so far?
G, the numbering of the index
Hmm.
that will be taken as a whole thing, right? Whatever the contents in the entire page, right? Not like the main content or sub content. It is again and again 1, 2, 3. It will flow right from the return to home page will be 0. Then the number sequentially follows, right?
If you don't give any tab index, then everything that is in order will naturally go through that order.
Oh.
But sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you will want to understand what is the page all about and specifically skip some sections for the for that better accessibility. So you would want to give a tab. Let's say there are 2 more links in here which are not important. Actually, they are more important for visual people. Then you would want to say that this tab index is today's news. Then you would want to say this tab index is later. So based on the understanding of the content, you might want to optimize on how the navigation flows in the page. You would want to also understand and optimize how what all sections of the page should be accessible by keyboard and what all sections are not accessible by keyboard.
Okay.
So this is more like designing the navigation. Now, the reason I am taking you through all this is that it gives you a different perspective of building things on, what is the importance of structuring things in a particular way and how the users are able to access it, especially the accessible users. This will force you to limit your limit your scope, and also ensure that you provide right information on a page at a given point of time. Okay. Otherwise, if we start thinking that everything is so easy on a page, scrolling is easy, navigation is easy, skimming a lot of information is easy, and going back and forth is easy, then we will not think too much about presenting things in the right way on a page. But with this, what we will be focusing on is, what is it that matters the most for this particular page, and how it is properly structured in an HTML. And even if you are not writing the code at the end of the day for that HTML, you can at least look at that generated code in that sense. Clear?
Yes, Dhavalji.
So, and there are more tags as well that you can now refer on your own. Most importantly, one being table tag, which is representation of tabular data. And second being the form and input tags, where if you want to capture user input, you can do that as well. And, send it back to the server. HTML will do the job of capturing the input, but, the information will be captured and stored on the server side. There are various kinds of inputs available, like text input, radio input, where you are able to select between multiple options, but only one at a time. Or you have checkbox input, where you can select multiple options within a given range at the same time. Or you have a select input, which is, used for representing things like a country list selection and things like that. And lastly, there is a text area input, which is usually used for larger block of text. So this, any questions with respect to this kind of inputs?
No, Dhavalji.
Have you seen these
Dhavalji,
being-
multi-line input and text area input, both are same, Dhavalji.
multiple?
Multiple line input, or
Multiple line input is the text area input.
same, same, right?
Same.
Okay.
When you have multi-line or a large block, it is usually the text area input.
Okay.
What is select input though?
Select is like, drop down.
Ah,
Yeah, where you have actually, you want, one option at a time, but at the same time, the list is too large. So then something like countries or cities, where you have hundreds of options to select from, then select input is the one that is being used. Okay. Now there are synthetic inputs as well, like calendar and all, but those are not a part of, standard HTML tags. They are done using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They provide some sort of way of capturing the input from the users, but now not a worry for us. That we will take on later. There is a date time input as well. Now, for today, I think from this perspective, not much else is left apart from me giving an exercise. Yeah, even audio and video, when we provide, from an accessibility perspective, like we have the alt tag going on for image, it is advisable to if possible, provide transcript for an audio or video. And if not possible, at least provide what is this video about? What is this audio about? Okay, same thing for image. If the image is just for decorative this thing, if the use of image is just for decoration, then at least provide what is the purpose of this image? What kind of an image is this? Rather than you leaving users in the dark that there is just an image, then users will be confused that, what is it about? So better to mention the purpose of the image, that this is a decorative image used to indicate such and such action. Okay. And if you see the video here, if you see, they've taken so much care of the accessibility that even when the video is playing,
Accessibility addresses the wide range of abilities and disabilities. It's also important to understand that it's not uncommon for an individual person to have multiple disabilities and for abilities to change.
so these things are, while the video is playing, they are also displaying captions along the side. Okay, now this much might not be possible for us, but the intention is that whenever we are providing elements which are visual, try providing as much as possible context and the content information. Okay. So now we realize how it is so important even in case of our content. Because say, for example, when we generate the equation images or some image related to gravity, okay, we also need to ensure that there is an alternative text that is also generated, which talks about what is there in the image. Or there is an alternative text that is generated which talks about what is there in the video. Clear?
Yes.
Did that make sense? Like how it relates to what we are doing?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Dhavalji.
So while
Okay.
creating content only, they can also do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
For video and all, it is mandatory that the subtitle is generated, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we cannot probably do so much about it right now, but
In future.
whatever we can do is good, if it also gives a good transcript or, context of what is the content about, then that would be great.
Correct. Because Dhavalji, as Sharda ji was telling, in the Gurukul, there are a few kids who are special kids are there.
Correct.
So when we are focusing towards the design, if we learn all these things, then
Correct. Yes.
again we need not go and change the code again and again.
Correct. Yeah. And it's very important. See, accessibility and web and all, and actually is hinting towards not just people who are by birth handicapped or by some problem handicapped. See, accessibility is important even for us. Okay. See, principles of accessibility says that the content should be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust, even to a normal person. Okay. And why it is important, I will tell you. Today, let us say you are able to normally operate, but one fine moment you are in a hurry, or one fine moment you are so stressed out about doing something, at that point of time, if the interface is very clunky or not easy to understand, you will make mistakes, or you will not be able to understand what is going on in the screen. Clear?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So it's not that it's meant for those people as well. Like, for example, in my organization, we are building software for doctors and pharmacists and nurses and all, who are usually very heavy loaded. Okay. And their primary focus is actually at the end of the day, dealing with highly stressful situations. So we don't want to create layouts and screens and, present information in a way that is not easily understandable by them.
Correct.
Okay. So accessibility is also about highly capable and smart and sharp people. We want to ensure that we think very through about presenting these things in the right way, presenting the right information at the right time. And if we take care of all these things, we will realize that most of the other things related to our applications are taken care of. Okay. Otherwise, sometimes we will go into the loop of trying to make things work better using a lot of technology, using a lot of syntax, lot of overhead and user interface, where it could have been easily solved using this particular approach. Clear?
That's what we did using Bubble, I think. No.
Yeah. So
when we were
yeah.
building that web app,
Hmm.
so we have done all these mistakes. Now I'm able to recognize.
Yeah, I mean, those I am not very sure of that context, but I am definitely sure of this context from my day-to-day work. What, in my field was happening was, building a web page is very cheap using simple HTML tags and, presenting the information in the right way and, structuring them in the right way. But developers often underestimate the value of that. And they will think that, let us add a lot of interactivity, let us add a lot of, flash to the UI, let us add a lot of other things to the UI to make things more, although it looks very shiny on the outright, then they get trapped into all that, where this could have been easily done using very simple thinking. Okay, so if we first take care of this, then all those things can also come in. It's not that all those things are also not important. They can definitely come in, but at a later stage. Other things are like, now I can color this page in a way I want. I can, put more interaction in a way I want. But first, if I have thought through about this, that how I'm going to present the content, what is it that the content the student is going to see and use, and how it is important to them, then it will be more simpler for us, rather than, we doing that exercise of going all the way of solving problem using technology and tools, and then realizing that it was all about ensuring that the things make sense to user. Clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any questions? All right. I will create a simple image, and what I will, assign is create an HTML page for that image and submit that as a assignment. Okay, probably within next half an hour, I will post that into our chat group.
Okay.
All right.
So you are giving us assignment or
Yeah,
you
yeah, I'll be giving that. I will create that wireframe of the
Okay.
page
Huh.
and put it in our chat group. It will also, involve you probably learning more tags and
Correct.
yeah, thinking about that. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Let us. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.